Mm. Greetings, everyone. How are you guys doing today? We are doing a week-long healing process. This process is starting off with childhood trauma. So this live is literally going to consist of that. It's called The First Cut: How Childhood Shaped My Self-Worth. I want to start off with a prayer, if that would be okay with you guys, because we're digging into something deep. So, the first emotional wound that was created in our life, I want to make sure before we even open this up, I want to take a moment to center ourselves and invite peace into this space with prayer. All right. God, we thank you for the strength to face what hurt us and the courage to begin healing. Cover this space with peace, clarity, and love. May every heart here feel safe to reflect and release without shame or fear. We surrender our old beliefs so we can make space for truth, grace, and healing. Amen. All righty. So, again, like I said, this one's called The First Cut: How Childhood Shaped My Self Worth. Drop a heart in the comments if something from your childhood still lingers. You still have triggers from it, anything that may make you feel uneasy or allow you to know that you have things that you need to deal with or heal from. Um, I will actually open this space up and start with myself. Let me take you back to the first time I felt not enough in a sense. I'm gonna go ahead and say it was middle school. Sixth to seventh grade. I still don't even know exactly what I did to make these two people decide that I was like, too much. But that's exactly what it came down to. I was just too okay with myself, I guess. I wasn't chasing popularity. I wasn't trying to fit in. I was just like a regular fat girl wearing Walmart and Kmart clothes. And that was cool with me. I mean, I wasn't in a position to think it was something necessarily wrong with it at that time. I love to read. I love to learn. I like being a child or a young kid. But for some reason, that made me a big ass target. And I mean that. They bully me for not caring about myself, I guess, enough to fit in with society. Um, they call me Fiona or Shrek, the Shrek's woman. They almost, in a sense, turn like groups of people in the school against me, and it was like a joke. And then every time I ignored it, it seemed like they tried to harder to break me down. On the outside, like started to space out basically. I just stared into space, waiting for the day of school to end. On the inside, I was really breaking down though. And school was not the only place I felt. School was like, let me rephrase that. School was the only place I felt seen, because at home I felt invisible too. School, I was like excelling. mentally excelling in my academics. So I felt like I had something that I could actually, bounce back on. But at home, I wasn't necessarily being told I was beautiful, but I wasn't being told I was ugly either. I wasn't being reassured. I wasn't being acknowledged in my head. I felt like, and then, the normal life, I watched my mom get like verbally abused by my dad, and it just got swept under the rug. It didn't seem like it ever actually got resolved. It just went from arguing to not arguing. And then we all acted like it didn't happen, like none of it mattered. So I learned two things at the same time: the words can destroy you, and that no one is going to clean up the damage they cause. I learned that at an early, early, early age. Man, look, me actually opening up about something that I only keep in my journal is insane. um, so let's go further into this. How like absence, silence, and criticism form my beliefs leading up to me being an adult. Let me show you how this turned into what I believed about myself. So, as far as absence becomes I'm not worth showing up for. At school, I was bullied. At home, I was ignored. No one showed up for me emotionally. So I believed I wasn't worth showing up for at all. If I didn't matter to the people closest to me, why would I matter to anyone? And then silence becomes my feelings don't matter. Nobody asked me how I felt after being bullied. Nobody told me I was okay to cry. So I learned to be silent because clearly nobody wanted to hear me anyway. Criticism became I'm never enough. So I became legitimately my worst critic. Nobody after this could criticize me more than me. So it was like I developed a thick skin for everything else but myself. I was beating myself up. So it became I'm not ever gonna be enough. I got criticized for just being myself. I wasn't flashy, I wasn't trendy, I was just me, a regular person. I didn't try to put a mask on. I didn't try to pretend to be somebody I wasn't. They said I was too big, too weird, too smart, too geeky, too something, too much. And eventually I believed it. I went from thinking I was great to thinking I wasn't nothing. And that is draining. So I went from being a happy person smiling to being severely depressed. I went from my grades being all A's to failing in classes. Like it was like a day in and I think I might not have showed it, like was out in school breaking down, but everything around me was breaking down. I went from I could read 4 books in a week to barely want to open up one book. So those inner narratives that they follow you, that's why it's called childhood trauma, because if it's not corrected while you are a child or a young adult, it will follow you into adulthood. So we'll talk about more about what happens when those wounds go unchecked. So you will start performing for love instead of receiving it. I became the girl who had associates but not real friends. I didn't want nobody to get close to me. I kept people at a distance. Like, not so much today because I actually went to therapy and did the work in my late 20s. So this isn't really showing up necessarily in today's world that I am in, or this journey, or this path that I'm on currently. It is not showing up in. But when it did show up, let me just perfectly be clear with you guys. It showed up in a way that I ain't gonna say I couldn't trust people, but ultimately I couldn't trust people. No, I couldn't trust people. Oh man, it was crazy. So my cousins are the ones are my only friends at that point. I was like, I don't need friends. I got cousins. I have so many. Why do I need any? Because why open up to, new people when you already know how rejection feels? You struggle to trust peace. So anytime life got calm, I braced myself. I felt like, oh, seeing the glass half empty instead of the glass half full. It's like, something ain't right. Even though everything could be going right, peace felt like a setup, like something bad was coming right after it to hinder me or stop me from feeling this sense of peace. You can't relax like that. I just held my breath and waited for something bad to happen. I used to set myself up to think like, maybe this is stuff too good. Let me not get too comfortable with it being good or get too happy because I know something is gonna mess it up. And ultimately it'd be self-sabotage. You self-sabotage yourself. Um, then you confuse pain with love. I saw love look like yelling, silence, and pretending everything was fine. Sorry, it was a net. So I started accepting those same patterns in relationships. Now this one, and calling it love because that's what love looked like to me. This one is, man, when you are a child and you are growing up in a household where your parents are showing you toxic things, you really be like, I'm never going to be like that. And then you ultimately turn around and be just like that. It is astonishing how quickly you can find yourself in those same type of predicaments that you told yourself as a child or as a young adult that you would never put yourself in because it felt familiar and it felt comfortable to you. But like I said, I started doing the healing work in my late 20s. So a lot of these things aren't showing up now, but trust me when I say they showed up earlier. I used to think if someone I was in a relationship with, um, that you needed to earn their love, or you needed to, if they were mad, make sure that they didn't stay mad because things may not be right, or it was like things that you say in your head that was delusional basically. So the revolution came, or the light bulb, the moment at the wildest part of my life. Like most of these beliefs didn't come from my adulthood. And I was like going through life and I'm like, something is not right. Like, why am I okay with this when I know I should be doing better or getting treated better, or I shouldn't have to deal with these things this way, or I'm triggered. I am so triggered. I shouldn't be this triggered by something as simple as a sentence. So I realized that they were planted in childhood. Before I even had the language to say this hurt me or open up or understand what it was in depth, that's where those things came from. So, what belief did you form in childhood that still haunts you today? Was it, I'm not enough? Love always leaves? I don't matter? Drop it in the comments, even if you're watching this replay, because identifying the wound is the first step to healing it. It truly is. Even if you think there's nothing wrong with you, I can assure you there's always some work to be done on you. Nobody is perfect, but what am I trying to say? Nobody is perfect, but some people are okay with their imperfections, and that's where you need to be at. A work in progress. Um, and I'm going to leave you with a closing affirmation. I am not the pain I survived. I am not the words that speak over me. I'm worthy of peace, love, and a new beginning, starting right now, right here, today. Thank you for coming to my first live going over childhood trauma. Like this video if it touched something deep in you. Subscribe if you're breaking generational patterns. Share this live with someone whose self-worth was shaped by silence, bullying, or trauma from things that they saw growing up in the household. And again, drop this a heart if childhood shaped your self-worth in ways you're unlearning today. Bye-bye.